Let's turn to Afghanistan and the other breaking news overnight: insurgents storming an outpost, killing 8 U.S. soldiers. Back in August, the president addressed the topic of Afghanistan, speaking to veterans, and this is what he said.
But we must never forget, this is not a war of choice. This is a war of necessity.
If this is a war of necessity, why wouldn't the president immediately grant the request of his commanders to fully resource this war of necessity?
Well, let me begin by pointing out what has been and remains our objective here. The objective, David, is to prevent al-Qaeda from being in a position to launch attacks on the American homeland again. Our goal is to disrupt, dismantle, and defeat al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan and prevent it from obtaining safe haven to come and attack us as they did on 9/11. That is the clear goal. The president set that out in March, and he said in March, when he laid out the policy, that after the Afghan elections in August, we would review where we are. We would review the goals, the methods, and the resources needed to obtain them. In the interim, we've had several things happen. We've had General McChrystal come in with his assessment of the situation on the ground. He has said that the Taliban is gaining in strength and that we have a somewhat deteriorating security situation in Afghanistan. We've had progress in Pakistan, critically important political, security, and even economic progress. And at the same time, we've had an election in Afghanistan which has not lived up to the hopes and expectations of the Afghan people. We are now in a process that I'm part of, which is a very responsible process to assess where we are, how the circumstances now affect our strategic goals, and what methods and resources we need to obtain them. That is a responsible, necessary process.
That may be the case, but the question I asked is, if this is a war of necessity, as the president has said, then why would he not immediately grant the wishes of his commanders to fully resource what is a war of necessity, to fully resource, which was the promise made by presidential aides after he launched the strategy, this war of necessity?
We are fully resourcing it. We have put in place 21,000 additional troops. They are still completing their deployment. We have increased the number of civilians, and we have increased the financial resources to Afghanistan and Pakistan substantially. The president has to make a judgment based not only on the military assessment of his commander on the ground, also the inputs of his diplomats, his ambassadors. He has to look at the military, the security situation. We have NATO partners involved. We also have Pakistan next door, which is critically important to this equation, and the entire global effort to fight and defeat al-Qaeda. The president, as commander-in-chief, has to look at more than what is happening in a single theater. He has to look at what is necessary to advance our goal of defeating al-Qaeda globally. And that's a clearly very important theater. We're going to do what is necessary to accomplish our goal in Afghanistan. But we're not going to do it without having taken stock, without going through a comprehensive and responsible assessment where all voices are heard and the president makes a judgment. There's no decision more serious, David, than putting more Americans into harm's way. The president will do what is necessary to keep America safe, but he's going to do it after a thoughtful and thorough analysis.
General McChrystal said this, speaking to military specials in London, about the difference in views in the national security team about whether you go in with kind of a lighter footprint without committing more forces, just focus on counterterrorism. This is what he said earlier this week.
You have to navigate from where you are, not from where you wish you were. A strategy that does not leave Afghanistan in a stable position is probably a short-sighted strategy.
Is the president committed to at least not leaving Afghanistan unless it is stable?
The president is committed to doing what is essential to keep America safe. And obviously, we have made important and substantial investments in Afghanistan. We're not talking. Nobody's talking about walking away from Afghanistan.
Will the president stay in Afghanistan until it is stable?
The president will do what is necessary to keep America safe. And that relates not only to Afghanistan, but Pakistan, where we face a very serious...
But you won't commit to staying in Afghanistan until it's stable?
We'll commit to staying in Afghanistan as long as it takes to keep America safe, David. We have challenges and threats.
But those could be two different things, right?
There are challenges and threats that face the United States that come from multiple quarters.
Those could be two different things.
They may or may not be two different things. I'm not going to prejudge the outcome of this review. It's a very important step that needs to be taken to ensure that we are not just reacting and operating on autopilot. The president's responsibility to the American people is to look at circumstances as they evolve, to make a judgment about what is necessary in the current circumstances to ensure that we are doing all that we can to prevent al-Qaeda from being in a position to attack us, whether from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Southeast Asia, or any of the other places where we have been active and on the offensive against al-Qaeda.
Is politics the biggest factor here? Is
Absolutely
the political
not.
pressure from the left not to escalate in the war a big factor for the president?
Absolutely not. This is a president who is going to do what is necessary, irrespective of politics, to protect the American people.